Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound, and happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. We appreciate what you do as mothers. And we are here to talk about sports tonight. Bob Pompeani manning the controls. We have a lot in the last 10 days that have happened. The Penguins fired their coach, the Pirates fired their manager, and the Steelers traded one of their best players. So here to talk about it is your panel tonight. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown #1 topic will be George Pickens, Will Graves from the Associated Press, Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee Show, and do you like Buzz? I never call you Buzz. Chris Adamski.
Buzzsaw, big difference. Okay, Buzz and Buzzsaw.
That's right.
Buzz
You like to call him Buzz.
Buzz is his official name.
Chris Adamski from The Trip. All right, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Graves. George Pickens, traded. Were you surprised at the timing of the trade? Let's start there.
I was surprised at the timing. Actually asked Omar Khan on Friday, like, you know, why, if you knew this was a possibility, why didn't you get a receiver in the draft? And he basically said where they were positioned to maybe get a pick back, they didn't feel they were going to get value in a receiver. So the timing is surprising, but like, I mean, look, they're cleaning house, right? I mean, like Najee's gone and George is gone, but now they're basically just leave the door open for maybe the biggest headache in the NFL, right? So like, congratulations, here's your prize, more hell.
Wow, I think it needed to be done, Bob. I think it was getting really ugly behind the scenes there, and I think some of the players of veteran leadership weren't too thrilled with George. I don't know the timeline on that. So I think that pushed it to the edge. Still, they wouldn't have got rid of him if it was not a third-round pick. They wouldn't have taken a fourth-round pick. So that's where the timing was, where Dallas came in with the third. But I think a lot of the players were finally fed up with him, and the right players were fed up with him.
For a while there, I was thinking that a fourth round, there's a time of value associated with draft picks. A fourth rounder this year is better than a third rounder next year, if that's what happened. But Omar actually was pretty convincing that the third round pick next year's draft is deep. It's known to be deep. It's known now whether or not they want to target a quarterback or not, I don't know. That's going to be what everybody thinks, is they're acquiring draft capital to move up in the draft. But apparently it's all indications are, but the people who know this, it's a very deep draft next year. It's not, but a third round pick, I think, is good value for George Pickens. I think it's a good trade, but it's not like an offer you can't refuse type, right? So they obviously, there was the off the field antics with George Pickens combined with production, as talented as he is, you know, he's fun to watch. You can see the talent. But he had 12 touchdowns in 3 seasons. That's just not enough for somebody you're going to pay and deal with headaches. And if you're going to get a third-round pick back, you do it. It's just that now we're stuck back to square one with this team with only one starting receiver.
They're going to look for somebody else.
I think it was very telling that nobody was beating down their door for him.
Well, let me ask you this.
Very few people was offered. Very few.
Okay, well, if that's the case, you know, I thought they'd make a deal before or during the draft and then draft a wide receiver. Once they didn't draft a wide receiver, I thought it was strange. I thought, okay, then they're going to go with Metcalf and Pickens. Let this play out. He may have a big year because he knows it's the only way he's going to make money, and then they could benefit by it, and then he'll move on, and so will they.
I think their greater good was that he was going to be the bigger cancer than you might have thought it was.
People in Dallas, I got to tell you, were so elated for this trade.
Well,
they
I mean,
really
but like,
were.
So are people in Pittsburgh.
And in that market, though, like, he's going to just be absorbed into. I mean, like, if he thinks we are a problem, and he thought we were a problem, especially thought, you know, Kaboly was a problem. But like, you know, if he thinks that we are the problem in Pittsburgh, like, he's going to be on first take every single day next year if he wants to. And Dallas, I mean, look, the market is much larger. The number of people that cover the team is much. Everything you do is going to get far more scrutinized.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
The flip side of that is, but everybody gets scrutinized, right? So, like, and the owner is out there making more headlines than anybody half the time. So, in a weird way, it might help him because he might be just as big of cancer there as he was here. But over there, he's just sort of absorbed into the culture. It's just one more piece of noise in a very loud locker room.
Chris, were you surprised that nothing happened during the draft? No wide receiver was taken in the draft? That made me think they were just going to roll with these two.
Yeah, the timing of it and not having the plan B. Listen, part of me wants to say it's early May, that there's plenty of time for something to happen, but I probably said that we all said that last May when they only had one starting wide receiver. And it'll get taken care of before week 1. It never got taken care of until week 9, and Mike Williams really wasn't taking care of it by the time they got another receiver. So I can't give them the benefit of the doubt again that they are going to take care of it this time, but you think they would. But as much of a headache as George Pickens can be and is, especially when you're signing a 41-year-old quarterback, especially when everything is kind of a win-now signals, maybe just hoping and praying that he does it, that he keeps him, his mouth shut and everything, and having DK and George Pickens. That would have been a pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wanted to see that
playmaking duo to have.
But now
the fact that it didn't happen, I talked myself into thinking that was a good idea.
Yeah, but they do have the third rounder just sitting there, Roman Wilson.
I know.
You don't know what he can do. You can't expect to even think you know what he's doing. But they, in theory, have a third round pick sitting there.
And in theory, they used a second round pick on DK Metcalf.
Right.
So I mean,
That's
like they did address it, but what's interesting to me is though, I could see them maybe pivoting away from Rodgers now too, right? Like it's possible. It's possible. They're not committing to any sort of timeline on him, but look, the offense is not as good as it was.
No.
Like without George Pickens, it's not, right? And maybe they're sort of realizing, like DK's locked up long term. They seem adamant on that they're going to keep TJ, they're going to re-sign TJ. And maybe it's just like, you know what? Maybe we're going to take our lumps with Mason this year. That certainly seems like it's on the table now, maybe more than before they drafted. How
about they win with Mason this year, Will?
I'm sorry, I forgot who I was sitting next to.
I was going to make some kind of golf course joke, but I figured I better not.
Real quick, let me ask you, there are free agent guys out there. There are names out there. Alan Lazard's name keeps coming up as a potential trade target. So they're going to probably bring somebody in, right, Mark? And if so, who would you like of all these free agents that you see, or a trade?
I think first of all, I think it's going to be a while. I think they'll go through training camp, maybe near the end of mini camp if they don't like what they see and they need to add somebody. Maybe at that time they've done that in the past with linemen and DBs, outside linebackers and people like that. So that could be the possibility. Me, I'm going to Amari Cooper. I think last year was just he was banged up. He didn't fit in the Buffalo offense, and they wanted to spread the ball around, and I think he's a great locker room guy. We need that. They need that. So I would go with Amari Cooper at this point if you're giving me a choice.
I mean, I feel like Keenan Allen would be a good complement to DK Metcalf in terms of you're constructing a different, a wide receivers core that would fit together the best. I know he's aging, of course, but if you're bringing him in for money that reflects his age, I think it would be probably the best of the options that are out there.
What about Gabe Davis, right?
Yeah.
He got cut. Just got cut last week.
Yeah, he had a bad year last year in Jacksonville.
Yeah, but I mean, like everybody had a bad year in Jacksonville.
He went from 1 to 3 in Jacksonville over a span of 13 months.
But I would say get him for value. And I want somebody to be honest with you, what is the dynamic that George provides that maybe nobody else, maybe even DK.
Showing up late?
Well, but I mean, like, is a guy that conceivably can get down the field, right?
Down the field and make big catches.
And that's the hole they need to fill. They don't need a 33-year-old Allen Robinson, Robert Woods. And guys, hopefully the guy, still got some gas left, but they don't need another one of those. They need somebody that can run.
We will see. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing moves on and whether or not Aaron Rodgers will join here shortly. We may talk about that when we come back. But we're also going to get into the Pirates make a deal, I should say, by moving on from Derek Shelton and bringing in the bench coach. And should Ben Cherington have been included in that? We'll talk about it when we continue right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Big news week, and part of the news was the Pirates firing Derek Shelton after 6 years and a .418 win percentage, something along those lines. So Donnie Kelly gets his first opportunity and takes 2 out of 3. They win a series against the Atlanta Braves. So that's pretty good. Chris, I want to ask you about why not Ben Cherington? I mean, you can make the argument that the manager only controls what the roster is, and he's responsible for the roster as Ben Cherington, and yet he was the guy who made the announcement. Should it have included him also?
I mean, I think it's kind of, I don't think you can really argue that where the Pirates are at right now is if you had to assign blame, if we did this a week ago, between Ben Cherington and Derek Shelton, I think everybody would say it's more Cherington. Now, Cherington technically is sort of Derek Shelton's boss, so there's perks that come with that, I guess, in terms of assigning blame or having a fall guy. But there's also, of course, the draft coming up. Cherington, I get it. There's starting pitching there. I guess there's still prospects. It's just, how many guys in this lineup are DFA claims from other teams or waiver wire claims? There's just way too much of that in the organization after 6 years of him running it. But I'm sure if things don't improve by the end of the year, I can't imagine Cherington being in this position.
Yeah, I mean, look, how many guys in their starting 9 would start for other teams?
No,
it's year 6, and it's year 6, right?
How many offensive bats do they have in their system?
I mean, like, I love Kutch, and he's still a valuable hitter for them, but should he be maybe the 3rd best hitter on their roster at this point in his career and in their, quote, rebuild or reset or whatever? Look, it was a weird week, but it's telling of where the Pirates are that when that happened on Thursday, I was relieved because it was like a normal thing that happened, right? It didn't involve any PR fly. It didn't involve somebody falling out of the stands. It didn't involve anybody covering up removing a Roberto Clemente thing. It didn't involve the bricks. This was
Or
just,
an usher getting involved.
or an usher whipping somebody. I mean, I was like, okay, well, this is just normal. This I can do. Look, the idea, to your point, Pomp, we were actually talking about this in the press box on Friday. The idea that Ben is going to handle another draft for them at this point.
That's the critical part of this.
When you look at what they have in the system, okay, maybe Tamar Johnson gets here eventually, and Connor Griffin's 18, 19 years old. A lot of people, he's a talented kid, but who knows, right? They should have moved on. You should have just said. But the
problem with that is, well, who do you install with this draft coming up right now?
That's probably
you're not going to find the most quality guys available
do you
on
trust?
the market.
Are you going to trust?
What do you do? If you remove, and this is the part of me that makes me understand why they didn't do it, although I would have done it, Mark, because if you keep him there and make a draft, and if it goes badly, then the new GM will have to deal with those players. But if you bring in somebody who's, a quick fix and then haven't done a proper search, I don't know if that's the right guy to make that.
No, it comes back to money to me, too. Shelty's getting paid the rest of the year, right?
I'm sure.
Donnie Kelly's still on the books.
He got a new contract.
Well, he's still on the books, so he's paying. If you're getting rid of Charrington, then are you going to have to pay somebody to replace him? I mean, that's how my mind thinks right now.
And they paid Neil Huntington to go away. So, they have paid guys.
That was awkward, too. They went, what was it, manager, president, GM over the course of about a month, right? So if they did that again, maybe it's all haphazard. I don't know. Part of me says, too, that unless they gave the new guy the mandate to not rebuild, even though they'd be last place, so it's kind of hard not to rebuild. You'd want to tear it down again. You've already spent 5 years building it. I know, but that's the problem. Is so the new guy would come in and have to start a whole new process and delay it again. But if you don't have anything here now, I don't know. It's just
we can blame Ben. We can blame Bob Nutting for not spending money, but Ben Cherington, Bob was a known quantity when Ben took this job, and he said, and what did he say from day one? We have to draft and we have to develop, and they've obviously figured out how to pick pitchers and develop them, but you have to score runs. It is tooth and nail every night for these guys. These pitchers are pitching their guts out, and at some point that you feel like that dam is going to break, right? And then it could get really bad.
Right. But even in this series, they're all one-run games, 4 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs.
Donnie Kelly. This could be the one shot he gets, and this is what you have to try to make work.
I think he's playing with house money there.
Yeah, I think so too. That leads to the next question. The next question is, what will it take for Don Kelly to become the, quote, permanent manager? Although they haven't labeled him interim, have they?
No, he's the manager for the rest of the year.
He's the manager, okay. But at some point, they're going to have to make a decision at the end of the year. What would it take for him to become the manager moving forward?
They'd have to win, and Ben Cherington would probably have to keep his job. Because if Ben moves out, you're going to hire a GM.
When you say win, what are you talking about win? Define win.
Let's say they
500?
play. Yeah, let's say they're competitive. Let's say they finish with 70 wins. All right, which would be what 8 or 9 under for the rest of the season, which would be around 500. But that to me, if they bottom out and Cherington gets fired, there's no way they're going to hire a GM and say you have this manager.
No, exactly.
But what else is out there? Donnie Kelly wants the job, I would imagine. Who wants to come in who's any better than Donnie Kelly?
There's always somebody, Mark.
This.
It's one of
there's
only 30 jobs.
Yeah, there's only 30 of these jobs in the world.
They pay nice. It's nice money to make.
I think the cheapest guy gets the job.
Yeah, I wonder if Bob Nutting because the thing with Sheldon seemed like a good guy.
He is a good guy.
I haven't dealt with him in a while. He was a good guy, but it was there's so many just between outs on the bases, throws of the wrong things like that. I think if the Pirates are competitive, I don't know if 22 games under 500 is that competitive, like you said, but however you define that, if they don't embarrass themselves the rest of the way, they show improvement the rest of the way, and we just stop seeing these daily deluge of just mental mistakes every single game. If that stops and they're playing better baseball and they're just being out-talented by guys, of course, if that happens, then if they're getting out-talented, maybe they should fire the GM and start over.
It's telling on Friday, Donnie's first game. So we're up in the press box. Crowd was pretty good, 20-ish thousand, 19, whatever. I could hear look, my kid plays high school baseball, and I watch my outfielders and infielders not communicate with each other. This is Major League Baseball, so maybe this shouldn't be a compliment, but I could hear them in the press box, the left fielder and the shortstop yelling at each other on who's got the ball. I heard it the whole game. So maybe that had not been the case necessarily earlier in the year. So maybe in a short term, there's a bump in refined play.
All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to shift back to the Steelers. We're going to talk about players in this drafted class who would be the most likely to succeed in year number 1. We'll do that when we come back right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, back to the Steelers. Everyone's excited about draft classes, and that's the way it is in the NFL. All teams think they've hit gold with some of these picks, but the reality is, as we've seen from the draft class of 2022, things can go bad in a hurry. So, Mark, I'll start with you on this one. Which of these guys they drafted do you think have the biggest impact this year, and which do you think 3 years from now will have the biggest impact?
I think it's the same guy. No,
Same guy?
No, not the same guy.
You're
I think
say Caleb Johnson.
I think Caleb Johnson will have an immediate impact. I think long-term, 10 years, 12 years, of course, Derek Harmon. That guy's a stud. I think he'll be the next coming of Cam Hayward to a degree. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer right now. He has that type of talent. But I can see Caleb Johnson taking over that starting job by October. So, yeah, and I think he's a perfect fit for what they want to do. So I think he's the guy.
I mean, I agree with you on both counts, so it doesn't make for a very good debate or anything like that. I mean,
I think Will Howard then.
Well, you never know. Will Howard, Jack Sawyer,
I think it was a good value pick in the 6th round. There's been way too much talk about him maybe start all this. I'm like, he got to make the team first. He's a 6th-round pick.
He'll make the team.
I mean, he will make the team, but let's slow down before we start talking about the start in week 1 until we start seeing a little bit of that. I think Jack Sawyer is not going to have the opportunity to make a big impact right away, although there's potential there down the road. But, yeah, I think Caleb Johnson will start right away. I think he'll be a good NFL running back. And Harmon, just by the nature of his position, even with Cam Hayward, he wasn't a stat collector, wasn't an all-pro until what, just 7 seasons, something like that?
I mean, he didn't even start for
Plus, there's a need, an immediate need. He's going to get whatever playing time he wants,
I think
I think Sawyer, I like Sawyer as that other rotational guy on the outside. I think like you can never have too many guys on the edge, and he's more of the edge setter, right? I mean, he's more of a run. He's not going to finish with. He's not going to be like Herbig and make these big splash plays, but I think he might be an effective. He's going to be a decent piece, I think.
I think he's going to get a number of snaps. I think he's a 15 to 20 a snap game immediately, almost immediately.
All right, we play this game every week, ladies and gentlemen, and it is called When Will Aaron Rodgers Make Up His Mind? So every week there's a new answer, and so I'm curious what this will be this time. So, Chris, start with you. Mark, you've already said this would have been done by the draft, right?
No. It was taken out of context. I said before mini camp
We
starts.
cut it in his.
Okay, before
So,
minicamp.
which is what,
You still have
June
time.
6th?
No, it's May
not OTAs.
27th.
No, not OTAs. Not OTAs. That's a
minicamps.
mini camp.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
June
The
11th.
7 to 10 days was taken out of
And
context.
do you have a better feeling or not a good feeling right now?
I mean, I'm starting to I was at a camp after the draft saying it's definitely just don't worry about it. But now I'm starting to wonder a little bit more.
He's
If it's gonna
signing.
happen. I think mini camps probably. I don't know. I think this point it's going
Way
to
to
be after
waver
mini
there,
camp.
Buzz. Come on, make a
I mean,
decision.
we've talked. He wants something different from last week when I said whatever I said. No, it'll be
signing,
during
period.
July. Hopefully till after mini camp is what I say.
Okay.
Even if the day after mini camp.
I've said
This mini
training camp, and I'm going to
start
stick to
training
that. I think it's going to go all the way into the
You
bitter
know
end.
what? And this is probably just wishful thinking on my end from a professional level. I think he decides he's not going to come. He's going to wait to see if somebody gets hurt and gets a job late.
So I thought that was a possibility to begin. Now you think that's more realistic?
Look, the longer we go, I mean, for a guy that is so, I know he's buddies with Art, and whatever, but like, are they texting each other playbook? I mean, like the idea that he's going to come in and immediately pick up everything, like in a new system with all new players.
Right.
Year one, I mean,
That's why I don't understand why it would take so long just to say yes. Even if you have no intention of being for one of these early camps, so no one's going to hold that against him. I mean, we're all talking about it now anyway. What do you think the reason is? I know everyone has personal issues they deal with, but that cannot stop him from saying, yes, I'm going to be the head or the
Maybe he
coach
just has a sick sense of humor.
I mean, let's remember, like they signed Mitch signed like 5 seconds into free agency, and they traded for Russ, or they acquired Russell like right before free agency started, right? So Aaron Rodgers is going to get a 3-month lag time. I mean, come on, what are we doing here, man?
Obviously, throughout his career, he's not much of an off-season OTAs minicamp guy.
Fine, but you can still say I'm going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's voluntary. He could have signed and then not showed up for OTAs anyway.
Does that ruin your reputation if he all of a sudden says,
It's already ruined that way.
I'm just helping out. I'm throwing things
I mean,
out.
if George Pickens is gone because, as Mark said, some of the right players were out on him. If you're a veteran guy and you're busting your butt for a team that is going to struggle to probably win 10 games this year, and this guy's just going to stroll in whenever he feels like it, that's your first impression?
Well, everything I've heard is everybody is welcoming Aaron Rodgers with open arms.
We'll see.
The vets who don't like
Mason.
We still not.
Mason.
We're,
It's not Mason's job
once
to bring
again,
him
we're
up on
moving
the
the
playbook,
goalpost
right?
on when this welcome party will happen. Who knows when it's going to happen, but we still believe it's going to happen. It just hasn't happened. When we come back, we'll talk about some other stuff going on in the world of sports next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, this weekend the PGA Championship is right here on KDKA, so I want to ask these guys who they have in the PGA Championship. Will, who do you like?
Victor Hovland. No showed at the Masters for me. He's going to win this time.
Okay.
Bryson DeChambeau.
Scotty Scheffler, the best golfer in the world, and he's back hot again.
Nobody said
Easy.
Rory McIlroy. That's my pick. Rory McIlroy. He's owned Quail Hollow. He's going to own it again this week and win another major because he's got the Grand Slam in his pocket already. All right, just when car buyers could really use a lucky break, along comes employee pricing at #1 Cochran Ford. That's right. You get the same extraordinary discounts as if you worked in a Ford factory. And remember, these savings are on top of #1 Cochran's already reduced clear-cut pricing. Plus, you can choose from more than 700 new vehicles across their 5 Ford stores. So get your employee pricing at #1 Cochran Ford and Cochran.com. We'll be right back. All right, that's going to do it. We're out of time tonight. Our thanks to the panel here tonight, Chris Adamski, Mark Kaboly, Will Graves, and thank you for joining us. We'll do it again next Sunday night, 11:35, right here for another edition of the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We forgot to say hi to Wanda.
Happy Mother's Day,
Happy
Wanda
Mother's
King,
Day.
Ellie
Happy Mother's Day,
Graves,
everybody.
Marcy Lawrence, all the moms.
All right, we'll see you again next week. Thanks for
wife.
joining us.
My wife.